Hey y'all, and welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to be looking at a chess game that I played just a couple of minutes ago, where I thought it was very instructive that although that I was able to win an exchange, I was actually only very slightly better. So let's get into it. I start off the game with d4. My opponent goes knight f6, and I decide here between two things. If you know the channel, I've been playing the Trumpowski with bishop g5 very frequently, but I decided in this line that I would just play the more natural, the less aggressive, bishop to f4, which is the London system. And it's just a very reasonable game, basically inviting my opponent to go d5 and get back into a normal game. My opponent decides to go with a King's Indian esque position with the move g6. Here I simply play e3, d6, and c4, grabbing some space on the queen side, and going for pretty easy play with knight c3, knight f3, bishop d3, and h4, h5 in the future. But what I really should be doing is being a little bit more passive, but c4 is fine. Like one of the top moves here is simply playing with c3, which is fine, but it's not in my style. Like I'd rather go more aggressive and pose questions to my opponent than just play solidly like this. So c4, my opponent decides to play the move knight b to d7 after some thought, with the idea, I thought, of course, being that he wanted to play e5, right? Which is a pretty reasonable idea in many of these King's Indian positions, where one of Black's base sorts of counterplay is to play either e5 or to play the move c5 and try to open up their dark sword bishop that way, which will be going to g7 in the future. I go with the move knight f3 to stop the move e5 and also to develop my knight. My opponent decides here to play the move knight to h4, simply going after my dark sword bishop and arguing that, you know, I think that your bishop is pretty good. I know I have a couple pawns over here to blunt it, but I think that all in all, in the long run, your bishop is going to be better than my knight, and I would like the bishop pair, which of course is a reasonable evaluation of the position, and I thought that it was probably one of the best moves here, and I've seen many ideas of this before in these King's Indian positions. And I was thinking, but I didn't think long enough. I kind of autopiloted here actually, and I played a bad move, even though I knew the right move. I played the move in like 2 seconds. I played the move bishop to g3, and I realized that this was wrong. Like as soon as I pressed the clock or like finished putting my piece on the square, because bishop g3 in this position doesn't really work. In a lot of other positions, yes, bishop g3 is what you have to play, because then after it takes, you open up the rook, and there's some pressure on the king normally. But in this position, with Black already like devoting their time to playing the move like bishop g7, the open h file isn't actually that good, and I should have played the move bishop to g5, which I knew. I knew that this idea is the best line to do in King's Indian positions, but for some reason I didn't play it right away. And that was a little bit stupid of me, but you know, whatever. Bishop g3 is on the board, knight takes g3, h takes g3, and bishop to g7 sees Black having a comfortable advantage, because they have a very safe king, and they're going to push with c5 and e5 down the line. I go with the move knight c3 after very little thought, because it's obviously the best move, just developing a knight. And my opponent plays the move c5. And here I'm starting to like realize, okay, well, the game is gonna get a little spicy here, and I need to kind of focus on what I'm about to do. And I was thinking about a few interesting ideas. One of the ideas that I was really trying to play was that I did want to have this idea in the future of a3 and b4. That's one of my ideas. The other idea of mine was to eventually play the move knight to g5 if my opponent played b6, which of course is a very weird move, but the idea is that eventually I want to go queen f3 and fork these two pieces, which you'll see actually happens later in the game. That's how I get up an exchange. But yeah, I was really considering a lot of things here, so I spent some time, and I ended up just playing a pretty basic move. I ended up playing the move bishop to d3, which I thought just made a lot of sense. And I'm saying, okay, if you take my pawn, this is probably not very good for you. I was just going to recapture the pawn. My two pawns in the center, even though they look a little bit unbalanced, they're actually doing quite well. And play here would probably be normal. We'd go both castle. I put my rook on the e file and it'd be a game, and I thought, okay, well, I'd figure something out here. But instead my opponent decided to go pretty aggressive with this really interesting move. Well, not aggressive, a little bit like prophylactic, a little bit too prophylactic in my opinion. This pretty interesting move, a6. And at first I was like, okay, is he wanting to play b5? And then I'm, okay, no, he's not going to play b5 because I just take it and there's not much he can do. I guess maybe there's an idea to sack the pawn and play this, but I don't like that. I don't think that's anything. And then I'm like, okay, so is his idea really just to stop my knight from going to this square? I mean, that seems stupid, right? Like, what is the point of that, right? Because I can easily get to the same squares, even better squares from the d5 square as it can from the b5 square. And I was just a little bit confused at this move already. I was like, a6 doesn't make any sense. But I ended up playing a little bit more realistically. I'm like, okay, some lines his queen might be able to come out to a5. I want to go with this a3 b4 idea in the future. So I ended up just going, okay, I play a3. This can't be a bad move. I'm just stopping anything from going this square. And now the queen a5 move doesn't really make much sense because this pawn isn't in the way. And I'm probably going to play b5 in the future. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I have some queenside play here. I'm like, all right, this is a good position. My opponent here goes with the move that I wanted him to play. My opponent here goes with the move b6. And immediately I'm like, oh, the tactic that I wanted to play. Ooh, now I can do it. Now I can do it. And I play this move without any thought. I play the move knight g5. Actually, 30 seconds of thought. But I play the move knight g5. And of course, knight g5 isn't the best move because it's a little bit of hope chess. If my opponent like has an aneurysm and doesn't do anything, then I'm gonna win the rook. But I thought, okay, he's probably gonna see it, and then I don't know, we're gonna do some normal stuff. He can't castle, so there's some issues there. But if he plays a move like h6, then I'm gonna be able to have queen f3. Probably the best move here, in my opinion, is bishop b7. Just stop anything targeting this pawn. I mean, I was like, I don't know, maybe I play like this or something. Maybe I play d5, and game goes on. But instead, after knight g5, my opponent lets me do my thing with the move h6. And I am completely winning on move 10 versus someone a lot higher rated than me by like, what is it? Actually not higher rated than me at all. 20 points. Okay, that's funny. But yeah, h6. And white is winning. White is completely winning, actually. But not for the move that I did. I did a really stupid thing here. I played the move queen f3. But this is wrong. This is wrong. I mean, I'm winning the exchange, right? Threatening mate, threatening the rook. This is winning the game. So why is this that bad, you may ask? Well, it's really not that this move was bad. It's that the other move was light years better. And I could have just, I mean, this is such an easy move. I can just play knight f7. Like this is like baby tactics. I'm threatening the queen, I'm threatening the rook, he has to take it, and then I get this, and now I'm just up another pawn. Like, okay, it's just the same position, but now instead of being just up an exchange, now I'm up a pawn, and you have your bishop blocked, so then you can't take here. So this would be just a much better version of what I did, but whatever. I mean, missing that is a little bit funny, but you know, you can't win them all. I go queen f3 though. My opponent takes my knight, I take the rook, he takes back with the bishop, and I take on a8. And in this position, white is up a full exchange, but black still has a serious amount of counterplay, and the game is not over. And after the move c takes d4, I realize that my position doesn't look that good. It just doesn't look that good. And I had to think here for a long time, trying to figure out if I had anything. Like I was thinking about knight d1, for example, trying to take back with the knight, sack like a bunch of pawns, go for some attack on the king side. I was thinking about this move knight to d5, for example, but I realized this isn't very good because he just takes, right? And what am I doing? Fe3, bishop takes b2, rook b1, even bishop takes a3. Black is already up material, and that's not what we want. Of course, I can take this pawn, but yeah, even here, this is bad for me. The idea, by the way, is after here, I get queen to c6 check, and white is getting the material back. Of knight d7, I have rook b8 winning the game. A little bit of a fun tricks. The idea originally doesn't actually work. Like this move, rook takes b6 is another line. After takes, queen d8. Then you take here. Black is just up a pawn, which is just obviously not good, and I have terrible pawn structure. So I was like, whoa, this is really scary. So I spent like a minute. I think I spent a minute and a half on this move, just trying to figure out everything. But I ended up not coming up with anything. I ended up not coming up with an idea. So I was just like, okay, fine. I have to take the pawn. My opponent takes back with the bishop, and I'm actually so scared. Yeah, I spent a minute on that move, and I'm honestly kind of worried that I'm not going to be able to win this game, because if my opponent takes my knight, for example, and doubles my pawns, now my pawn structure is ruined. He has a serious amount of play like everywhere. Like if he's able to untangle, like for example, if this king was able to move over to g7 like a knight, black is already probably better, which is just crazy. That's just insane. But here, luckily, I keep my nerves. I don't play the right move, though. I play the move rook to c1, and now the game is back to 0-0-0. But this position is not 0-0-0 for a human. This position is more like, oh my god, I have no idea what the evaluation is. I am freaking out for a human. And yeah, that's what really happens. My opponent here doesn't find the right move. That there's one move that's able to save the game, which is a very nice move. Is this move knight to c5, and the idea is, of course, you're attacking the bishop, and if I go to bishop to c2, then black is probably better after something like bishop takes and b takes. I mean, this pawn structure is just horrendous. Actually, it's even better to play the move bishop to e6 here, trade the queens. Oh my god. And actually, there's nothing I can do to save this pawn. Crazy stuff. But oh, and the other line after knight c5, if I like defend it with my king, this is actually just wrong. Because at the end of the day, yes, this is a fork. Let's say I didn't blunder a fork. Let's say I go here instead. There's this line, takes, and the move bishop to f5 check. And actually, white is, yeah, because obviously, okay. Well, I guess that's just wrong for a tactical reason. Either way, I thought it was going to be wrong for a positional reason. But either way, my opponent misses that move and plays a very bad move. Instead, the move knight to e5, which on the surface does the same thing that knight to d5 does, but no, it is not the same. It is not the same at all. And here I'm able to kind of find my footing again and get into a better position with the move bishop to e2. Very reasonable. Defending all of this, all these squares. Bishop can't come here because I'm just going to trade the queen and take this. Probably not even take. I'm just going to trade the queen and play like even knight d1, for example. Defend this pawn. Try to trade off the bishop pair, and actually probably white is just winning. Kind of cool stuff. But either way, bishop e2 and white is back in the game. My opponent here plays a move that I didn't think made any sense ever. But somehow it's the top engine move. When I saw this move, I was just like, okay, I'm winning the game now. But this move is crazy. That's the top engine move. That's insane. My opponent plays the move g4, which on the surface looks like it's a stupid move, right? Why are you blocking this square? I thought you're coming here with your pieces in the future. Like, I thought the idea was maybe to, like, I don't know, maybe trade the queens and get some play over on my king. I thought that was the main point, right? Because he has, like, some forking ideas on this square, his pressure on this pawn, and I was like, g4. No, that's not the right move. That can't be good, but somehow it is. And here I find another very nice move. I find the move b4 as a countermeasure, and my idea with this move is also very cool. My idea is, first of all, this pawn was weak, now it's out of the way, and second of all, I have this very nice plan of playing this, of eventually having this idea of knight d1 and c5, which I just thought was awesome. If I go knight d1 here, I didn't think that this was any good because my opponent has immediate play with the move queen to c7, and if I play b4 now, the position is just not, it's just not in time for white. And the reason after b4 my opponent can't play queen c7 is because in this position I'm just like immediately able to find to have, like, I thought it was this move. I thought knight d5 was the move here. It is, I guess. Yeah, I guess it is. And I'm just like, okay, well, this is probably good because now I'm attacking the queen and I'm getting c4 anyway. I'm just like, why not? This is winning. But anyway, b4, my opponent goes with the move king f8, which is another terrible move, by the way. The reason why this is actually so bad is kind of funny because the king kind of needs it to be closer to the queen so it can defend the queen, because now the bishop isn't even pinned isn't even like pinned at all. Well, the bishop wasn't pinned at all beforehand, it was just defending the pawn so it couldn't move, but now the bishop literally can't move because now it's defending the queen, and the move that I play here is even more powerful. Actually, I probably could have played c5 immediately here, but I don't for some reason. Instead, I played the move knight d1, which was my original idea, and c5 is on the way, and my opponent has to bend over backwards to be able to defend it. And they do. They manage to defend it with the move knight to d7 after a long think. But the problem with this move is that it just gives me a pawn. That's just a free pawn on g4 now, and I'm like, okay, well, if you're giving me a pawn, I am not going to take the pawn because I'm awesome and I'm going to go for the glory. Yeah, I don't take the pawn. The idea of knight d7 was that he's getting to this square, by the way. Like, he's getting to this square after taking here. He's getting to that square and defending the bishop. So there's no problems. Did I show you the threat, by the way? Let me show you the threat. If like something random like king g7, c5 happens, this isn't good. What? Oh my god. Okay. Let's say something besides king g7. You know what the engine was saying there? Oh my god. King g7, take. Queen h8, and there's okay. No, that's not that's not what's gonna happen. Let's say instead of king g7, I don't know, this move. Now c5 is very powerful because after it takes, able to win this pawn, and if you push, I just thought, well, I'm able to take on d6 and I'm going to win the, yeah. So that's okay, that's insane. I didn't see queen h8. My bad. But anyway, b4, king f8, and knight d1, and my opponent goes to knight d7. I play c5 anyway, which is just a bad move, because it kind of allows him to do what he wanted to do, but actually is perfectly okay. And after b takes c5, which was the move that I missed, for some reason I was only calculating the move b5, and I'm just like, okay, well, I win it here, right? I'm gonna take on d6 and I'm gonna win the game. But, well, yeah, that might be true, but no, he can take, and for some reason I just missed this, but whatever. Bishop takes a6, and my opponent goes with the move knight to b6, defending the bishop, attacking my queen, and we're in for a little bit of a scrap. I go queen a7, somehow not the right move. I have to go queen to b8 and try to put even more pressure, prevent like queen c7, and like I want to trade the light squared bishops, and you still can't take here, obviously, because well, this would be winning a piece for white, but instead of that, queen a7, and white is already worse in this position, which is just absurd. Again, because of like all this stuff that's already happened. Plus, I'm up in exchange. Plus, it feels like even though my king looks exposed, my king's actually pretty safe here. The reason why this position is not even the reason why this position is bad for white is because my opponent has like play on my king somehow. Like, for example, like arbitrary move, the move bishop to e6 is up there as one of the top engine moves for black, and like if you ask me to explain this move, I really can't. It feels like I'm doing pretty well after b takes c. Actually, probably not b takes c5 because that opens up the queen. No, I guess white doesn't really have a move here then. Yeah, I guess white doesn't really have a move here. You have to go like knight c3, and then like my opponent's able to come in with knight d5, and there's already like some problems here. The bishop pair is very strong. This pawn is like going to be in a bit of trouble. For example, here I immediately lost in the eval from queen c8 and getting to this square, but whatever. Instead, queen a7, my opponent misses the correct move and instead takes on a6, letting me have what I wanted, which was to trade one set of bishops. And after queen takes a6, I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing good. My next order of operations is that I want to take the bishop with this knight. And after that, my position is probably just winning. There's nothing my opponent can do. My opponent takes on b4. I take back with the pawn. And I'm winning. But there are still more issues with this game. And after king g7, you might notice the time situation, which has just become a problem. And I had been thinking about for a while, ever since I spent a minute and a half on a move somewhere. But this time situation started freaking me out. I realized, okay, I'm down a minute and a half on the clock, and I'm only up in exchange, so I have to play faster, and now I kind of start to make mistakes. I go with the move queen to a2 after 30 seconds of thought, because I couldn't find anything realistic. Queen to a2, and I thought, okay, well, what I'm doing, I'm bringing the queen back in the game, defending my king in many lines, and I'm stopping every single infiltration of the knight. So I'm like, this probably has to be a good move, and I'm still trying to win the game. My opponent goes e5, which is a nice move, but I thought that it was a weakening of the position in many lines, and I immediately came up with a nice plan of this idea of the move knight to c3. However, this is not the right move, and after the move queen to h8, which I saw during the game actually, white is not in the position to call the shots, because I have to go with a move like queen e2 to defend this pawn in many lines. And after queen h1, king d2, actually not king d2. No, I have to play queen f1. I'm actually in a little bit of problems, but no, this is actually okay for me. I guess queen h8 isn't the best move in the world, but I thought it was kind of dangerous for white because these pawns are actually a bit weak. However, my opponent kind of falls right into my trap that I set, which was pretty easy not to fall for, but he falls for it. He goes queen c7, and immediately I'm back in a winning position, which is actually pretty easily winning with a very simple move, knight e2, opening up the rook on the queen and getting the order of operations that I wanted with taking this bishop in the future. But my opponent's still in the game. Queen to b7, I take the bishop, e takes d4, and we still have to play chess. Now, I think for a little bit, trying to play something interesting. I want to play this move queen to d2, which I thought was nice, just going after this pawn. There's not much my opponent can do, but I realized, why am I giving up my pawn on g2? So I was just like, okay, well, before I play queen d2, I'll play the move king to f1, which is the best move, the top engine move, which I'm actually kind of proud of, and simply defending this pawn. And for example, after a move like knight d5, I would have queen c4. An interesting line, I'm able to, he can't take with the queen because of course the knight hangs, and after the knight takes, I would be winning this pawn plus this pawn, and I would get into a winning position. Not to mention the fact that actually after there, I simply have the move rook b1, winning the knight. But I digress. My opponent goes queen e4, which is kind of a nice move, I thought, trying to get in on the light squares and giving me a bit of a headache. But the game ends after a couple moves here, where I play the very clutch move. I think it's a very nice move too, with the move queen to e2, which demonstrates my understanding of the position, because queen to b2, if I'm able to get a queen trade, I'm doing good. And what I'm actually proud of is the move that comes after, the move f5. I realize that the move queen takes e4 is winning, and I shouldn't be worried about my opponent's play. I go queen takes e4 after 10 seconds of thought, and I'm able to win the game due to this move, of course, is obviously the right move, But what was a little bit scary here and a little bit hard to figure out is if these pawns were going to be any problems, but I was able to evaluate that they were not. And after knight d5 takes, you don't have any way to push the pawns farther than my rook can win them. So he takes, and I win all the pawns. I move my rook over to the side, and I'm pushing my pawns at the board. Here, I miss an easy win. I can simply play rook a6, trade rook for knight, and then this is a simple winning king and pawn in game, of course. But I don't do that because, I mean, I was just playing fast, so I go g3, and after king e3, my opponent resigns the game, and I'm able to get up to a very high rating of 2248, which is a rating that I haven't been at in a while. I haven't crossed 2250, and I've only crossed 2250 once, where it was my highest rating of 2273, I think. I think I made a video when I was at like 2272, but I got a point higher than that. But yeah, 2273 is my top rating right now, and hopefully I'm able to get higher than that, and hopefully I'm able to get all the way to 2400, which is the real goal. But yeah, it all starts with games like this. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found this entertaining, instructive, all of the above. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, do all the normal things YouTubers tell you to do. And yeah, that's all I've got for you today. Good evening and good night.